Hello and welcome to Jimmerish FM. We've got a bit of a different show today. We're experimenting with a show which doesn't really have a name, but I'm guessing we might name it after the theatre group that it originates from.
Which is?
The Theatre and the Colour Passion. Which all of you out there on Facebook and you live in Perth should search that in Facebook and find it and join it if you're interested in theatre. It's sort of like a book club, but like a theatre club. On the last Friday of each month, roughly, we organise, well, the organisers, who you'll meet some of them in a second, will organise tickets to a show, and then they organise a Q&A afterwards, and it's a pretty cool way to like set that night aside each month, go and see some theatre and introduce other people, your friends who wouldn't normally go to theatre to go, stuff like that. But before I go further, I'll introduce who I have with me today. I have the co-founder of Theatre and the Colour Passion, Misha Ip.
Hello.
And with us today, joining us to help actually make this quite an interesting podcast, by having a third person in the room, I don't always get multiple people, but is Georgia King.
Hello.
So do you guys just want to give a brief introduction of who you are, what you do, etc.? This is Misha.
Sure. My name's Misha, and I organise Theatre and the Colour Passion, which is, like James said, a theatre club, and it's also got two other syndicate parts to it. One is an advanced acting course for actors in Perth so that they can casually maintain their skills as actors and continue improving the skills. We work with I just knocked the table, excuse me. And we work with collection of great directors in Perth that show us their different ways of working and that kind of thing. And then we also have a fundraiser as part of the theatre club, which currently is for a documentary called An Australian Citizen's Diary, which is being made to inspire refugees and to educate non-refugees. And so we're, the people who are making the documentary, which is including me, will be going to Africa in November to get that happening. So we're trying to do some fundraising through the theatre club as well. And
you guys have a website for that project?
We have got a website for the documentary, and that is, shall I say it?
Yeah.
www.australiancitizensdiary.com.au.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
Yeah, which people can also donate tax-deductible donations to, because it is a registered kind of charity thing through Documentary Australia website.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And Georgia, you?
Okay, well, I am Georgia, and I am a participant in Theatre and the Colour Passion, as well as the advanced acting classes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess I'll be giving the perspective of someone who's joined and am involved in that.
She's
side.
Really funny as well.
No pressure. I won't, but I'm purposely not going to be funny during this podcast.
Oh, good.
So don't get your hopes up.
Now we're recording this on is it 4th of
Yes.
September?
It
And
is.
this will hopefully go up at least the 5th of September. Last week we went to a show, was the last month's session of the theatre club, which we went saw in Perth of Being Earnest. And later on the show we're going to actually post a Q&A that we recorded after the show, so you guys can hear it, so you can get a sample of what it's like, and you can get a good idea of the atmosphere. It's quite a nice atmosphere, going listen to these people talk about what they do. But I just wanted to start off things now that they've introduced themselves about what you guys have all been doing in regards, like what other theatre have you been seeing, say, in the last, because it's the first one in the last couple of months, and what have you heard going on in Perth?
All right. Well, the theatre club, the last few shows the theatre club I've seen have been The Duel, which was directed by Matt Lutton and put on by Thin Ice Productions. And we've also seen The Glass Menagerie by Black Swan. And we've also seen a couple of Blue Room shows. And let me just put a shout out to the Blue Room. They are one of the most supportive arts venues in Western Australia. And I couldn't speak more highly of them. And I love going to their theatre. They work with independent artists and they make really innovative theatre. So we went and saw a play called Alvin Sputnik, The Adventures of a Deep Sea Explorer, which has now gone to New York and performed at the New York Fringe Festival and was a phenomenal show. It was it used visual AV devices, which was done live as well as pre-planned.
Cool.
and it used puppetry and music and lights, and it was phenomenal. And then we've also seen a couple of other shows at the Blue Room that unfortunately I wasn't able to make it because I think that I was in Melbourne for the Melbourne Comedy Festival. So we've been seeing some really great shows, a great variety as well. We like to go to the really professional stuff that have fully funded, and then also we like to go to the co-op stuff where they don't have a lot of money but they have really creative ideas and stuff like that.
And it's good, I think, to keep the balance of seeing, you know, things that aren't, you know, mega professional, like you were kind of saying. Part of the concept of seeing things of a variety is that to support people that are working really hard that maybe aren't getting paid as much as those really, really high-end professional groups.
Definitely, yeah. And a specific thing is a big goal of the theatre club is to expand theatre audiences so that more money can go into theatre, so that we can start creating better theatre, because there is so much talent, individual talent in Perth, and so many great teams that often don't have the time to really flesh out their work because they don't have the money, so they're going and working in other jobs to keep themselves alive. So we really want the theatre industry into Perth to really be able to get more money by having more audiences and then just really grow.
And also there are a lot of people, really talented people, who are doing theatre for nothing. So it'd be,
they could
those
get
people,
paid.
exactly.
Absolutely.
I went to there's a Perth Now, which is like Sunday Times' website online. They have there's obviously two journalists dueling out about whether Perth's Dullsville or not, and one guy was complaining, it's Dullsville, and put all these videos online, or we can't, calls worse unopened, and the other guy, or his counter argument was he just put a list of all the stuff that's going on in September. And you just go on this list and you scroll down, and you scroll down, you're scrolling down, you're scrolling down, and like half of it is theatre. There's so much theatre going on in Perth, but they're all like little things spread out around Perth. And I know they are building a theatre in Northbridge. It's rumoured to be called the Heath Ledger Theatre. Which
will be called the Heath Ledger.
Is that really?
Yep, confirmed, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Which will bring a lot of stuff back into Perth, which needs to rivalise the centre of the thing.
The main thing is we need to increase the audience. Because there's no point in having all of these shows if people aren't going to watch them.
Well, me and a friend tried to go see The Wedding Singer. It was on the Subiac Arts Centre, and we turned up, was sold out, couldn't get tickets to that. So
that's fantastic.
Some shows are obviously getting the publicity, but then I don't know how big the theatre is. Maybe it's one of these. I went to another show with Katia Shevtsov. She's a local actor. She invited me along too. It's one of the shows she was in, and it was full, but there was like, it was one of those very intimate theatres. There's only like 20 seats, and you're like right in the audience. And you literally get the bits of their spit, even if you're in the back row, you get bits of the spit from the actors on them.
I love shows like that.
They discussed that in the Q&A later on. So I was looking on your Facebook, Misha, stalking you, and you're saying you've got a few different theatre projects coming up that you're appearing in.
Yeah, I'm really excited because one of my biggest passions ever is acting, and I've been putting a lot of time and effort into other things, such as the theatre club. But finally, I've gotten into a couple of shows. One's a deck chair umbrella project. So it's being directed by Mark Storen, and it's a double bill. So there's two shows. One's called Forget Me Not, and one's called Refractions. I'll be acting in Forget Me Not, and we've got a great cast of quite well-known actors in Perth, such as Sam Longley, who was just, for those that don't know, is just acted in Where the Wild Things Are, which is a pretty big film that's about to come out. And
Spike Jones.
Spike Jones film, thank you. And the theatre club will be going to see that show in the end of October. And then I also just got cast in Eat My Monologues, which will be on at the Bamboo Lounge behind the Lux Bar, which is a beautiful venue, outdoor venue. And but I will probably only be performing that next year, but there's going to be every month for about 6 months or so from now onwards where there'll be performances of monologues, different actors doing monologues, having been directed by different people. So it's a really awesome, amazing initiative run by a gorgeous girl whose name has slipped my mind.
Claire French.
Yay, Claire French. Thank you. Yeah.
So Frenchy. Google So Frenchy Productions. You'll find out about her.
Yep, that's her company, and she's phenomenal. She's very innovative and very lovely.
I went and saw one of in his last series. There was like 4, and I think 2 of my friends were in one of them, and I couldn't go to that one. But then I went to the next one and saw, because they have for that last series at least, they did it for a month each Thursday night, and each week they had the same monologues but directed by different directors and different actors, and they were all completely different takes on the things. So it was pretty interesting project.
Misha?
I actually don't know because I think it starts October, November-ish. But everyone
Once
should check
it's warm
that out.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
definitely.
because that Bamboo Theatre is really awesome, but I went there in winter and it's pretty cold.
It can
Yeah.
get
And
cold.
the gas heaters ran out and everyone's like going, "Ugh."
Yeah, shivering.
But that would be awesome in summer project.
And
Have you
I
guys
went
ever been in? When was that opened? I just
The
turned up and was like,
Bamboo.
whoa.
Yeah, I'd never seen it either until I
Yeah.
went to see the last season of Eat My Monologues.
They
and
just redid it. It's been there for quite a few years, but they've
yeah.
redone it up, and it's and now they're starting to use it in all kinds of interesting ways, like theatre and different things.
Yeah.
And
It used
dance,
to
I
just
think.
be a music venue.
And I also went to one of the shows last season, and there was one actress that just blew my mind. It was such a phenomenal performance, and I was really inspired. So there's High Caliber. Oh, no, I sound like I'm speaking myself up. Well, I saw last
Expect
season.
the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, last season when I went, there was some really talented people.
Cool. What about Georgia? What is this acting course like that you're doing?
Oh, for
the
the
acting
advanced
course,
acting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's excellent. I mean, it's just the best part about
How do
it, I
people
guess.
get involved in it? See, I didn't even know about it until today.
With
Kind of
friends-
secretive.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
secret.
But
I'm
it's
sorry,
not a
it's
secret,
just-
clearly, because
yeah.
we're talking about it.
I guess the idea is just to be kind of particular about who's involved, because we want it to maintain a certain level without sounding.
Oh, so you have to
And
kind
it's
of...
only because there's a lot of acting classes out there, and they've all got beginners in them.
Yeah.
So there's not actually a casual place or an evening place that people can go.
So people maybe if they come along to the theatre nights and get their way into the groove and become part of the thing,
Or
people
even
go,
just kind of
"Oh,
meet
maybe,
Misha and I guess go through you and
Yeah,
And it's
I mean,
also
what
kind of
happens
word
is
of
if I
mouth.
don't know the person, if they come and ask they want to be in the acting classes, I'll ask them to send me through a CV. And then if I'm unsure, like if I'm like, I'm not sure if you'll feel comfortable in the environment, because we do want the directors to be pushing us.
Yeah.
If I'm worried that they might feel, I might say to them, you can come for a 3-week trial and give it a shot and, see if they feel comfortable, and I'll see if they seem to fit in, and we can kind of agree on, what will make sense. Or someone sends through their CV and I'm like, fantastic, come through. Or I might say, look, go to these classes, which are great classes. Please don't get me wrong, but they are for beginners, and they'll be a great place for people to start.
yeah. I guess we don't want people to feel uncomfortable if we're working with a director who might be quite critical and really pull apart what you're doing, and that can be very intimidating for people who haven't got a lot of experience. So for me, it's been really good. It's a great idea to have it as a drop-in kind of thing, so you don't have to come for any particular amount of time. If you can't make it 1 week, that's fine. But obviously, the more you attend, the further you develop. And it's good to get working with different directors. We've worked with Adam Mitchell. At the moment, we're working with Emily McLean for 5-week block. Marcel Schmidt.
Thomas Papathanasio.
Andrew Hale.
And next up, we've got Marissa Garefa
So
for 10 weeks.
it's good to get a variety of different people to work with, and also maybe some exposure with those people. And
Absolutely, because these directors are working right now, and they see you and they like your work. They could potentially want to cast you. And great news that Georgia doesn't even know about, but she'll be excited about potentially. Marissa Garefa is looking at our 10-week process, actually going towards creating a show that we might pitch to the Blue Room. So
that's what I've been wanting.
I know, me too, and I know other people in the group have
I
too.
shouldn't gush too much, will
But what it will
warned me,
be is it'll
Misha.
still be accessible to people who want to come one-off. So they'll still get something out of the one-off session or whatever. But the people that want to commit for the 10 weeks, it'll be really a great journey and a great potential thing where we can maybe look into taking it
Doing a
somewhere.
project with it.
Yeah,
That's
which is something
awesome.
we've talked about since day one about what we'd like to get out of these
Because the
classes.
potential is great. I mean, because the hard thing about being an actor is it's not like being an artist or being in fashion.
Mm.
You can't work unless you've got other people to work with.
Mhm.
And you don't always have the opportunity to work with people. So it's now that we've got a group of actors together, it sort of seems silly to waste the opportunity to maybe put a project together.
Totally.
So that's great that we
Isn't
can
it great?
Yeah.
So great.
Sounds awesome. So yeah, last Friday we went and saw The Importance of Being Earnest at the Subiaco Arts Theatre, and I don't actually know. I just turned up. I'll get Misha to actually tell you who ran it and everything like that.
Yeah.
But we'll go around and just say what we thought of it, and then we'll introduce the Q&A.
Beautiful.
So Misha, who was running this show?
So The Importance of Being Earnest was being put on by Class Act Theatre and Bare Naked Theatre, the Class Act is particularly established in Perth and has been going for years and years, and they do education in theatre and education, and then also do public shows. And the director was Stephen Lee, and Angelique Malcolm is the person who kind of, I think she owns and runs Class Act, and Glynis Best was stage managing it. And then the actors were Rhoda Lopez, Dan Luxton, Whitney Richards, Angelique Malcolm as well, Stephen Lee, Ben Russell and Craig Williams. And I hope to God I haven't left someone out, and if I have, I'm really sorry.
Well, we should Google that stuff. We don't know as far as we know, they don't have a website, so we can't plug their website directly, so you can get the direct information.
But we can plug the name Class Act Theatre and Bare Naked Theatre.
Yeah, Google that and check out what
definitely.
they've been doing, because they probably still have some shows going around the place.
Yeah, they actually do. They still have Hamlet. They've been doing 2 shows, Hamlet and The Importance of Being Earnest, and they've still got a few shows in regional areas coming up. Yeah.
That is quite interesting. I thought the most interesting from the Q&A was the fact that they are a group that gets together and they're both doing Hamlet and Importance of Being Earnest, which I'm like, how would you even be able to do those both plays at the same time?
And hence having to do some gender crossing in terms of like casting the people, which is interesting and creates a challenge which I think they met fairly well with Ernest anyway.
Yeah. Importance of Being Earnest has been written by Oscar Wilde, for those who don't know, but probably everyone does, at least those who interesting thing. Have you guys ever seen that perform before?
Oh, yeah, I have.
I have a couple of times.
Yeah.
I went and saw it at the Regal
pretty
Theatre
good.
a few years ago, and it had Hyacinth Bouquet as the Mrs.
Wow.
Who's
Lady Bracknell.
Lady Bracknell, yes.
She would be perfect.
It was quite a feat. Everyone was like, ooh, from Keeping Up Appearances.
Yeah. When was that?
Man, it must have been like just the end of high school, so probably like almost 10 years ago now. But it was 10,
I don't know if I've seen it once or twice, but the one that I remember best was, funnily enough, Glynis Best also stage managed, and I had forgotten, but I'd done lighting on at university. It was a university production, and so I saw that many, many times, obviously, because I was doing lighting every night. But I would definitely say that these guys, Class Act and Bare Naked, did a really great job. Very high caliber of acting and comedy and timing and pace was great. And though I did find a couple of the actors had a bit of the intensity maybe stayed the same for too long for me, and there wasn't enough up and downs.
A couple of them.
Yeah, a couple.
But there were some lovely moments where they milked the changes.
Yeah.
And you could tell that when they sort of just took their time for a joke to come in, and that worked really beautifully.
And some of the actors had a beautiful balance between having fast but having it be realistic. So like they were being truthful in their farcical, in their overacting. There was still truth there.
They believed it.
Yeah, whereas some of the actors I did find actually went fast but went so over the top fast that there wasn't as much truth in it.
And it became a bit wet.
Yeah.
Too wet, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, largely.
But the timing and the comedy, the audience was just laughing every second.
It was a great atmosphere.
I was
amazing
laughing quite a lot, and I knew a lot of the jokes that were coming up.
Yeah.
But I still, there's a bit that I remember that was great, was where Ernest is telling Lady Bracknell about where he was born, and has to say that he was born in a handbag, and it's quite famous. Her reaction is usually quite famous. Lady Bracknell saying a handbag in this way, but Craig just stood up, ripped the piece of paper and walked over to the bin, put it down, sat back down, a handbag. It was just such a really funny way of changing
Contrasting,
it up.
absolutely.
It was, good.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I can remember Hyacinth Piquet going, "A handbag."
Yeah.
And I would say Rhoda Lopez was magnificent in her role. I saw her to be alike to Mary Poppins, which I think is a phenomenal feat, because I saw Mary Poppins put on at West End, and both my brother and I agreed that the actress on that stage just did not have what Judy Garland had. And I was watching Rhoda Lopez and I was like, that girl has Judy Garland in her. Like, she was just elegant and sharp and precise and but friendly. Like, I don't know, there was this beautiful mix in her. Yeah.
It was a really intense performance, and they split it up into 3 acts, so you had 2 intermissions, which is quite cool because it was so intense. Because I was like, there was a roll in that word, so I don't know how they do it, but it was pretty amazing. So what do you guys think? What's your final consensus on Points of Interest?
It was really funny. It was a funny show.
Have you guys go and see them do Hamlet?
I didn't get a chance.
It'll be interesting to see what they're like in that kind of scene.
Definitely.
It's always hard to imagine because it's so different.
Yeah.
I would say it was definitely it was quite well done, and I was really pleased. I was really pleased with the caliber.
So anyone out there, look out for any class act performances near you. Go check them out because they're a pretty awesome group of actors and
theatre makers.
Theatre makers, that stick together. They're like a touring group that stick together, so that you can really see that they know each other well to play off each other, and it really works well. So I think we'll leave you now, and we'll I'll chuck in the Q&A after this so you can hear it. It's pretty cool. And I'll just leave you. Where do you guys find yourselves on the internet so people go check you out?
If you search, you don't have to be... Okay, if you search Theatre and the Colour Passion on Facebook, you'll find it. If you can't find it because you're not a member of Facebook, I kind of want to be like,
where have you been?
Join Facebook. Unfortunately, it's the most... Theatre and Colour Passion is such a tiny group and is run by people who... haven't been able to put any money into it, so we don't actually have a website or anything like that. So at this point, the place to find us is on Facebook.
Should we mention Equus, because that's
the shows that we're seeing next.
A deal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Georgia. Thanks. Do you want to say it?
Okay, yeah. Well, we've got Equus coming up, which is on the 22nd of September, and it is a great deal. It's normally $80, but Theatre and the Colour Passion members are getting $30 tickets. So I don't know how many seats are left because it's probably getting pretty slim, but that's a $50 savings, so it's a pretty good deal. And it should be an excellent show. And
there'll be a question and answer session after the show like usual, and famous people such as Chris McInnes and Khan Chittenden are in it. They're famous Australian actors that have done various Eastern States television series and stuff like that.
Great theatre.
And great theatre as well.
And Peter Holland's in it. My friends are very excited about that.
Good old Peter Holland. So that'll be kind of exciting. Hopefully we might do a podcast after that as well. Hopefully some people who come to the Q&A will like to come by because it'd be good to have a rotating group because not everyone can be at every podcast. So it's a bit of an experiment this podcast, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks guys for coming along.
Thank you for
Miss
having
Sheep
us.
and Georgia
Thanks,
King, and you can Google them if you want to get them in your theatre show.
You won't find me because my name is spelled funny.
Oh yeah. I'll spell it on my website. So if you want them in your theatre show, they're obviously passionate about theatre and they're doing pretty well for themselves. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you so much.
Hope you enjoy the Q&A. Thanks.
And I played Cecily.
Dan Luxton.
Ben Russell.
My name is Craig Williams.
I'm Rhoda Lopez.
I'm Stephen Lee, and I was also the director of the show.
And I'm Glynis Best, I'm the stage manager.
Hi, Glynis. Yay.
And we'll take questions, I think, for about 20 minutes. So I'll let you guys know when his time's up.
Or if you get bored, you can just leave.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you have no questions at all.
Don't feel you have to stay.
I'm trying to remember my history. When was Oscar Wilde? When was the play written?
The play was written in 1895. It was, in fact, just about the last thing Oscar Wilde wrote in terms of stage. It was actually on stage when he was, if anyone doesn't know the story, he rather fell foul of the Marquis of Queensberry, who was the father of his boyfriend. And the Marquess of Queensberry accused Wilde of being homosexual, and Wilde foolishly sued him for slander. And when he lost, of course, he was then sent to prison for 2 years of hard labour. And when he got out of prison, his health was broken. He died shortly after. So this was kind of the real high point of his career, just before he kind of plunged into the horrors of Reading Jail.
It was just so fascinating speaking with Misha earlier, and it's so true how relevant the play still is. I mean, the humour and everything that the modern references, it's fascinating. So whether he was ahead of his time, which obviously he was, I mean, being an out and out, homosexual gay boy, happy, he really
Yes, what is the relationship between Jack and Algy?
But the thing is, he created a world that was so unusual, even in its day, and because it transcended his day, it's transcended ours. So it hasn't dated because it was unusual then, it's unusual now.
So we've just done a play this morning, Hamlet, which is 400 plus years old, and this afternoon we've done Ernest, which is 100 plus years old, and I imagine that in 300 years, Ernest will be 400 years old, and still being played, probably. No. Just part of history.
But it is wonderful, we've all been saying, isn't it wonderful? It was a fabulous audience tonight, it was just a joy to perform to you. And but it's amazing the laughter and the comedy which still comes from something that is 120 years old. Almost none of these jokes have dated at all. And it has just been a joy, and I think probably everyone in the cast will agree, it's been such a pleasure to just perform it today. You guys were fabulous.
Had any of you seen it, had all of you seen it being performed live before, or some of you just read it?
I saw a production. I was just telling the rest of the cast. It was my first play I think I ever paid money myself to see, and I saw it on this stage in 1984. Bernie and Jenny Davis were in it, and I can't remember the rest of the cast, but I saw that as a Year 11 student, and then came back to see a whole heap of other plays that really inspired me to now here I am. It's amazing.
And I've stage managed it when I was at uni. I stage managed it with uni students, so it's really interesting to stage manage it again. So the second time for me.
It's the first time, I think our first rehearsal was the first time I kind of read the whole thing.
What was your reaction?
You didn't even read it then,
I was like,
I can't remember.
And I think Rhoda should tell the little thing you said to me when I cast you.
Yeah, for me, it's one of my favourite plays since high school because we studied it in English Lit. And I always thought, being Asian, I'm never going to get a chance to play it. So I was really grateful to Stephen when he said, I'm going to blind cast it and we'll let the audience decide what happened, that, maybe Lady Bracknell had an affair with the pool boy or something, who was Chinese, or I don't know. So it's really nice to be able to do it, to perform it. Yeah.
It's amazing how many other people want to play the roles of Cecily and Gwendolyn. I mean, the people in the bar here want to play the roles, They wish that one day they'll get the chance. So. Yes?
Did you shave your hair for the occasion?
No, it's a great response. We've just done a tour of the southwest, a whole of different little country towns, and I think a lot of people probably twigged that I was a bloke in drag for Lady Bracknell, but I think we fooled quite a few people that I also play the other butler. Like it's a great response when I take the wig off at the end. No, I'm actually playing Hamlet in the other version, and he's a skinhead sort of rock punk kind of guy. So, and the fact is, I didn't have to shave all that much, just around the back. Yeah.
How did the kids take it when you took it away? Did they react as easily and accessible to the show?
The wig.
No.
Oh, sorry. No.
On video still and stuff like that. Were they connecting?
Well, Ernest has been a huge hit wherever we've taken it. I mean, it's just been massive response from audiences. But
there were schools in tonight.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
But in terms of age group, I have to say that the majority of people that have come to see Ernest have been seniors that have, from the age of 40 up, let's say. So not all seniors. But who have familiarity with, the play. It's been good to have some schools in, but we haven't had a majority young audience by any means, unlike Hamlet, which we've had a majority young audience.
But it's been interesting. We noticed that when we were performing the play at Bustleton, sitting right at the front, there was a girl who was probably 10 years old, 11 years old, just going,
Yeah, she was
amazing. I'm saying to myself, yeah, by about halfway through, she's going to be bored, but she wasn't. And that's what's been really good, that when we've had, this has gone down so well, places like Hopetown, we've had like large kind of mining, or now like ex-mining communities, and the people have just loved it. And it's
in Hopetown, we had a ring of 10 children around the stage. You know, literally almost crawling on.
You had to walk over them to get on.
Yeah, some of them were asleep though.
And tomorrow afternoon, there's a lot of families coming, quite extraordinary number of families coming tomorrow afternoon, bringing their kids. So, yeah.
Bit of feedback on that. A lot of the young ones were mentioning the movie. I'd forgotten that there even was a movie, and I was sitting here going, just read it, blah, blah, blah. You know, live. But then now I understand why that generation. So there is some exposure there. There was one other comment which I thought was gorgeous, because of course you're eating sandwiches, and I was trained as an opera singer and taught to, if you didn't cover the front row, you know, with spittle, you're pretty much, and as they're walking out, some of the young ones who are down the front, oh no, we're just spitting the whole cover.
It's interesting thing, if anyone doesn't know this, it is actually impossible to properly project and fill a venue unless you're spitting. So yeah, sorry for anyone who is in the front row, particularly who got hit with bits of cucumber and mayonnaise.
Yeah, you were lucky. My mouth was dry today, but just back on tour, there was one particular day where it was just like wet.
Great story.
Great, yeah. Sometimes Algernon has had to sort of like go like this, which gets a huge laugh.
Yeah, I love that time. It's my favourite. Yeah, they are actually now. They're pretty good. At first there was margarine, and that wasn't so great, but now, there you go.
We've tried a lot of things on those muffins.
At first I was like, muffins are going to be fine. No, they're really glutinous, and I shouldn't be eating wheat as it is.
And we had to count exactly how many pieces of cucumber sandwich, how many.
It's choreographed.
Yeah, because it's like, because when we tried it, there was too many muffin pieces, and then there was too many cucumber sandwiches, so we had to kind of like keep taking them out and taking them until we got the right amount. So
because Wilde doesn't help there. He has him constantly saying things like, "There's just 2 left," you know, and there has to be 2 left at that point, you know. That's probably one of the more difficult things to do, I'd say, Ben.
Stupid muffin.
There has been a few bits of cucumber sandwich hidden in the
Yes, there was one performance where he didn't manage to get through all the cucumber sandwiches, and I very quickly sort of like hid one, so it was empty.
I was watching for that.
No, I don't.
Any other questions?
Do you think you guys will do another Oscar Wilde play now? Like, you doing other
It's a very interesting thing. This play is, if anybody does go to think, oh yes, I must read more Oscar Wilde, most of his other plays are not like this. They are funny, they have occasional little sparkly bits of dialogue, but they're just basically an ordinary world with maybe one character in who's a bit of like Algy in this play, is a bit sort of wild in his way. But this is the only play where every single character inhabits this strange world where everyone talks in clever witticisms, and the whole world's thing is turned upside down. That's really what's interesting about the play. Everything that we consider unimportant and trivial, the number of muffins you're going to eat and all that, becomes crucially important. Whereas the important things like religion and God are just thrown away as kind of nothing, tiny things. That's where he's inverted the whole world. And this is the only play he did that. It's been very interesting to see what he would have gone on to write. A bit like Joe Orton in the 60s, very similar, who was starting to get more and more unusual in his writing. And like Wilde, Orton died just at the peak of his power. I mean, again, what would he have written after there? And they're often compared to each other.
The text is quite difficult in terms of, I mean, how was it to learn? That's what I'm interested in compared to other. I mean, you're doing Hamlet as well, which is choreographed.
Hamlet was easier.
Hamlet, yeah. It was easier to learn. Hamlet has a lot more lines for everybody, but in a way, Stephen was explaining before. Oh yeah, especially for me, and I'm still trying to get the lines out. but because you've got that, because it's a tragedy and it's dealing with emotions, and you're largely a lot of soliloquies where it's just one actor has the free reign of the stage, and you can sort of time it as you go along. You can change things. This show being a comedy, it's precise, it's precision. You've got to get the words out. And we've noticed the moment you do stumble on a line, you miss that gag. Like the audience will just be ahead of you and they'll guess what you're going to say, or it's just not funny.
And the rhythm of the words, like the words are so specific. And I found really difficult was there are adjectives, but then there are extra adjectives that you have to put into the sentence just to get the rhythm and the space right. Yeah, so that was really hard.
Also phrases like, you behave as if you were married to her already or not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be. It's a lot of H's.
Well, constant. I mean, that's actually true. He uses a lot of onomatopoeia throughout it. I mean, P's and T's and, alliteration. So in terms of learning, that's one of the cues to learning it, and really is necessary for the comedy to actually pull out what he's given you. I mean, there are lots of clues in the writing as to what words you should actually be pinging, because he's, it's either all the P's or it's all the T's or whatever.
And there is also a lot of mirror stuff, which means that one character will say something and the next character will say something almost identical, except he's using a load of synonyms instead of the original words. And you have to be so precise about that kind of stuff.
And the tone's almost different. So one's sarcasm, one's direct,
I blah blah, I'm going to marry Cecily, I adore her. Well, I'm going to marry Gwendolyn, I love her, and there are all these different things, and you get one adjective, as you're saying, out of place. The whole thing sounds wrong. Wilde does depend on being as close you can to what he actually wrote. Shakespeare, strangely, you can get away with occasional, as long as you don't say to be or not to be, that's the point. You can get away with it.
And if you can improvise in iambic pentameter.
Improvise Shakespeare? Would you guys find it hard to improvise Shakespeare?
Yeah.
No,
me too.
I've kind of proved I can. Only in terms of words or synonyms, or if you find you can't, when a line doesn't come to you, you've still got to say something so it comes out, and it's not ideal. But yeah.
And you try to say the vowels and the vowels or speak properly if you are making it up. Forgot your line.
You didn't see the show, did you?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's exactly we speak it as written. There's no.
No, what I'm saying is, if you have to make up a line, do you improvise in thou and thee?
Look, it's not those words that trip you up.
Yeah.
No. It's more, it's a particular noun or something that you just then have to find a way of saying the sentence or.
They're very good at covering it up.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
I think Laurence Olivier discovered that if you say anything with absolute conviction, it carries. Because he was in a Shakespeare production once and he was supposed to say a lioness was crouching in the woods. He actually completely blanked and said, a baroness was crouching in the woods. Nobody smiled or laughed at all because he did it with utter conviction, and they all thought, well, I don't know, but it must mean something. Right? So, yeah,
the beauty of a production of Hamlet is the original script is 4.5 hours long, and so we've cut it down to just over 2 hours. So there's a lot of material that's gone. So any purists in the audience who know the script really well, we can just say, no, I'm just cutting our version. Yeah.
So if you want to see Hamlet and you haven't seen it, you have an opportunity. You can come to Mandurah. It's not that far.
Yeah.
On the 18th of September, 11 a.m. show and an 8 p.m. show at Mandurah. That's the closest one that you can see if you haven't seen a Hamlet and you want to see what we do. The same company. And this is one of the wonderful things about this, is we are a company of players, and we are doing what they did 400 years ago. A company of players touring through the regions with a couple of players up their sleeves, performing to audiences all over, wherever, and putting on a different show every night. Tragedy tomorrow, comedy tonight. Yeah, Hamlet is a tragedy and it's fun. Yeah.
There's a lot of comedy in Hamlet because Shakespeare knew for a fact you've got to have if you're going to have a 4-hour-long play and you don't put any comic stuff in, it's going to drag. But it is very interesting, actually, people were saying about comparing Wilde and Shakespeare. You can cut 4.5 hours and we've cut 2 hours or more. And you can do that. We couldn't cut a single line of the Wilde. There's no, every time you look, well, it's too tight. Every single word. Although it's interesting that Oscar Wilde actually wrote this play to be about 40 minutes longer than it is. And he took it in, and when he handed it in, the man who was running the show actually said to him, "But look, I want to put a ballet on, Oscar. This play's too long to have that and a ballet, so please could you cut an act?" And he said, "You wish me to cut an act of my play? You know how long this took to write? That's 4 hours work wasted." But he did. He cut a good 40 minutes out of the play, whole sections of things that happened. And I have to be honest, it's probably all the better for it, because he had to tighten it to the point where there's nothing else that needs to go. You know, it's incredibly tight.
Why did you choose to do 3 acts when a lot of people who put on shows now that have 3 acts don't do 3 acts?
Very difficult to, where do you put, what do you do in this?
You can't put the intervals anywhere else.
You need the resolution.
You just can't do it. It's
Because
impossible
I
to
found
put...
that it was great having two intervals. I got a break, and I've realised that I so often go see a show that's meant to be 3 acts, and I get really exhausted and I get kind of bored because they give me one interval to kind of rest my brain. And I've actually kind of noticed how much more comfortable it becomes going, "Oh, that was really quick, and now I can have a walk around."
It's because the first act and the third act are sort of, you know, decent sizes, but then you got that big second act, which is just and you got to have a break in between them.
And also it's a very prop-heavy play. So like I'm out there making tea and I'm saying, "Craig, put the teapot on there, check this, check that," and we're checking each other all the time because there's cups and teapot and tea going everywhere. So being a really heavy play, I don't think we could have done change. You know, you've got to change things over, so we really needed that break.
Yeah.
But interesting in terms of positioning of the interval, just going back to Hamlet again, having cut Hamlet, which is 5 acts, and was designed to be performed in an afternoon with 4 breaks between every act, we then cut it down to 2.5 hours, and we put the interval at an appropriate point in the script, which is right up, leading up to the point where Hamlet gets banished to England. And then he goes to England, and then the play moves on. So that's the place to put the interval. And we went, well, we have an hour and a half in the first half of the show, and then we have like 45 minutes for the back half of the show. And so we had to move the interval. And it actually interrupted the flow of the play. I mean, we could justify it, but in terms of the flow of the play, the sense of the chronology, it wasn't in the right place.
So you have to make sacrifices, I suppose.
Yeah, because of course Hamlet, as Dan said, was intended to be done, and the intervals they would have had would have been very brief. Like what they call the act time in Elizabethan theatre would have been maybe a piece of music, just time for people to walk to the edge of the theatre and pee in the river and come back.
Pee or not to pee.
Yes. But yes, this play you couldn't split it any other way. No other. You couldn't. The acts are all different. There's supposed to be different scenes. So
We'll just do a couple more questions.
If there are. We'll be stretching now.
With the scene where Cecily and Mr. Fairfax are having tea, posing tea, that's like the only section where there isn't lots of dialogue. Did you guys have to think about that to like get a comic timing right because it's not being driven by the dialogue? Or was it just come naturally?
Aren't they clever?
Mm-hmm. Oh, brilliant.
Because it was very funny.
I enjoy the silence, and I think because it's been so loud up until then, everyone's just so with it. And as soon as you feel them, I don't know.
And it was choreographed. It took a while during rehearsal to actually work out. I'm going to give you this piece of cake. How many sugars can I put in? Give you this. How about we exchange it? Give that to Miss Fairfax. Like, it's very, very choreographed. And Whitney was not liking it for a while because she's like, I hate props. So yeah, because it's quite tricky. And then even to give Craig reaction time as Merriman, which worked tonight as well. So. Yeah.
So there's a real skill. I mean, I think you're seeing some very skillful actors at work, in my opinion. I watched that scene from down the side today, and I was watching how the skill that they really showed was to make something that really and truly took a lot of detailed work. And we spent ages on, no, you can't pick that up now because then we're looking at this and yet making it look like they're just messing around and enjoying the thing. And that's a great skill, and they did it brilliantly.
I'd love to compliment your facial expressions amongst everything else. I mean, like, you guys acted that. I wanted to compliment anyway the whole production. I was so impressed. I've seen a lot of theatre and this was great.
Thank you.
But the detail, like for that scene, for instance, just the she pulls up grumpy and then she's this way. It was just incredible. I can't describe it because it was done with the body, the face, but it was. I was right up the back. It was perfectly visible. The timing was spot on.
We have a very good understanding in this company of the importance of reaction.
Mm-hmm.
That you have a line and then you have a reaction, and the audience is looking for it. They're looking to see what impact the line has, and you get the reaction, you get the payoff, you get the laugh. So that's all that is. It's just us thinking.
Yep.
We're just thinking.
It's a bit like what you were saying before about comedy needing to be so precise, because there's a tempo to it. You set up a rhythm. The acts where we're really racing through dialogue set up a certain rhythm, and so therefore there's a contrast when there's the quiet moments. That's a rhythm of its own, and it increases the tension. There's a famous moment. A lot of people who know the play, when just that line. I always get it quoted to me when I say I'm playing Lady Bracknell, and they go, "A handbag." Like, that's the line people expect. And because we decided to do something slightly different, where I actually underplay it and tear the note up, and they just go, "A handbag," right? Just hold it right down. We tried that several ways, Dan and I discovered the distance apart we were, or if I looked at him first and then said the line, or if I said the line first and then looked at him, or if we broke the tension at any moment.
If I pulled out and then went back in,
we would lose the laugh.
Just lose the laugh. Just had to maintain the tension.
And once we found it and discovered what it was, and we've repeated it every time, we almost always get it.
Yeah, and those details just made it. I loved your character had the voice modulation is just brilliant. I loved it.
Also, what you find, and I think most of the actors will probably agree on this, you spend when you're playing something, this is a farce. Ernest mustn't be ever forgotten, it is a farce. And it means farce acting. And when you're being told 9 plays out of 10, stop showing me that, don't do that look, that's just too much, keep it down, don't show. Just to be told, show anything you like. Let your face show things. It's great, it's a lovely liberating thing to be able to do. And I have to say, would honestly, I'm sure everybody agree, we had probably as much fun doing the play tonight as you guys did watching. At least I hope so. It was wonderful.
Great way to
Thank
end
you.
that. Also like to let you guys all know that James Pontifex here has been recording this as a podcast. It's the first time we've done this, and we're going to continue on with every show we see and every discussion we have, podcasting just the discussion. So you can find it online and have a listen. So if you didn't get to make it to that show or whatever, you can still see what everyone talked about. So again, if you want to get those details, I'll be out there. And can we please give the cast and crew a really good round of applause? Thank you.
And hopefully the bar is still open.
Thank you very much.
You can find the Jimmerish FM website at fm.jimmerish.com.